Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name is Austin Van Churn.
And my name is Patrick Ferry.
And welcome to our show. Well, guys, we're trying to get back on our weekly grind here at Young Americans Abroad. And we had a few games to talk about this week, Pat. We had some games midweek in the Bundesliga, and then also some games over the weekend. We also had some games in other leagues coming back too. So what do you think of this weekend, Pat?
Yeah, again, it was nice. We had a lot of action now returning. Games kind of getting in to fill this timeline. Obviously, during the unfortunate COVID events, but again, Austin, I think it's just nice to be able to have topics just in general, not just Americans, but all these other soccer stories and other leagues. Now you're seeing restarts in June, so all really exciting content to bring you guys.
Yeah, it's very true. And starting off today, we want to talk about an American scoring his team's first goal in a long while.
And also, Austin, one American who finally played in his desired midfield position as opposed to right back.
That's always fun. And then we also have an American playing hero for his team, scoring their winning goal in the final minutes of their game. So all that and more in today's episode. So the first player we want to talk about today is Weston McKennie. So Weston played 90 minutes midweek in Schalke's 2-1 loss to Dusseldorf. And, Pat, it was a very mixed performance from Weston. He ended up scoring the lone goal in this game off a nice header. And it was cool because that was actually Schalke's first goal back. So a little concerning that it's, we're 3 games in, I think, at this point. And Schalke's just scoring their first goal since since before the coronavirus hiatus. But the cool thing about this goal was that Weston finished or scored the last goal for Schalke before they went into the break. So he scored the last goal and Schalke's first goal. So that was kind of a neat little caveat for him scoring this goal. But unfortunately, Pat, with a goal, his performance on the day was still pretty mixed. He finished the day with a 58% pass accuracy. So, not good for a midfielder since, they're supposed to be combining play in the midfield and, being the maestro, so to speak. So that's, never good. But he did have a pretty good game defensively, even though it was a loss for Schalke. So he ended up finishing the day with 6 interceptions, which is a crazy number, and also 6 recoveries. So definitely an active day defensively. I watched this game, and you could definitely tell that Weston had a good game defensively, which, again, is weird saying in a loss, Pat. But, it was good to see that side of his game. It just seems like recently, that offensive part of his game has just been lacking, or at least the passing efficiency has been lacking. So I don't know. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you kind of bring up. I know Schalke's had some struggles, and Weston's had some good games defensively, which is very interesting. You bring it up, and it has been kind of I wouldn't even say a complete trend, but almost in that terms. But also just, again, that part of the game where he does need to clean some things up, where it's maybe moving the ball forward and having those forward passes and things of that nature, and just making sure it's more crisp and clean. Again, I think he certainly needs to improve, and we've harped on it, consistently. But again, just nice to see him again, like you said, score that goal, and you can kind of see, the impact he had on the defensive side. So it's a very interesting season too for Schalke, Austin. They're very polarizing club in terms of their performances.
Yeah, they're almost kind of like Weston's performances this year. They're hot and cold, unfortunately, and they're very cold at the moment. So I guess that's a good segue into their game over the weekend. So Schalke played Werder Bremen, and Weston played in this game as well. Started, played only 55 minutes, and we'll get to why here in a second. But that was in a 1-0 loss. So, again, just starting off this post-COVID break play without a win. So that's definitely concerning, Pat.
Tough. It's tough.
And in this game, Weston again had kind of an up and down game. He did some things good, he did some things bad. And I guess the bad, so to speak, we'll talk about first here. So he ended up picking up a yellow card right before halftime. It was a pretty chippy game at times, because this was a game that Werder Bremen really needed to win. And we'll kind of get to that scenario when we cover Josh Sargent here in a little bit. But, Weston picked up that yellow card right before halftime. I believe at this moment, Bremen were up 1-0. So, definitely the pressure was on Schalke to kind of get something out of this game once that happened. And, they went into halftime. They came out, I believe it was, 5 or 6 minutes after halftime, and Weston went into a shoulder-to-shoulder tackle. I forget what player it was on, but it was a pretty strong tackle. And, the referee had to come over to him and give him kind of a final warning, because if he didn't have a yellow card, it would have definitely been a yellow card in my opinion. So, that happened. A few minutes later, he basically was subbed off, Pat. So that's why he came out so early in this game. They're worried about him picking up that second yellow, especially since they needed points from this game. So yeah, his day was done early. It was also because that first yellow card, he's going to miss this upcoming weekend's game. So that was disappointing. I know we're struggling for players to cover right now, so it'll definitely hurt us a little bit. But,
yeah.
It is what it is. In this game, I thought he played pretty well. Again, it was more he played better defensively than he did offensively. There was times where he, tried to play passes that just didn't come off. Was just loose in possession at times. And, it just seems like defensively he's doing a pretty good job, even though his team's not really getting the results they want. But offensively, he's just kind of struggling at the moment, Pat.
Yeah, again, it's just it seems to be a trend with him and Schalke just in general. It's hard to get going when you're in a certain slump like this, and just the mindset. And I know, like you said, don't want to make any excuses, but this post-COVID time certainly hasn't helped the club. Seems like they're really shaky and trying to find their footing. And they at least I think I don't know their exact position in the table, and it's certainly kind of hurting now, but even before this, it seemed like they were, decently positioned as opposed to, the year before. So I think there's still plenty of time left to kind of see a turnaround here, Austin. But yeah, it's just been tough.
Yeah, and like you said, Pat, they were in a good position in the first half of the season. They were right around that Europa League position. They've fallen down a little bit now. I think they're in 8th or 9th spot.
Right.
So they had a little cushion, kind of like you were saying. So they're not in danger of relegation, kind of like they were last year. They're not to the levels of danger as Werder Bremen is this year. So that's good, but it's definitely concerning to see them really struggling and dropping points, so to speak, here at this point of the year. So before we move on tonight, there is one more important thing we got to talk about, and that is, what Weston did during, this game against Werder Bremen, which was, in my opinion, really cool. So he put, Justice for George Floyd on his armband, and again, just Pat using his position of power in the sense of, him being a professional athlete with a lot of eyes on him, bringing awareness to the situation that's, we're living in here in America in terms of just, police brutality, racism and all that's associated with a lot of the events that have gone over or gone on, for the past however many years here in America. And, I think it's important to say that this isn't only an American issue as well. We've seen a lot of instances of, overt or covert, however you want to say it, clear signs of racism, clear actions of racism in Europe and European football. Italy's a nation that's got a very tumultuous history and one that's been showing its ugly head recently. And I think you got to see some other players this weekend really take a stand as well. You had Jadon Sancho, Achraf Hakimi have the same message on their shirts. Tyler Adams had it written on his cleat. Then you also had Marcus Thuram, who took a knee. So it was just really cool to see, Weston kind of lead the charge, in this fight. And I think it's it's something that, you know, we can be proud of him about, and proud of him for doing it. So what are your thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, I mean, couldn't agree more. And it was really great, like you said, just to see Weston use his platform for good as an athlete, and especially abroad there in Germany, you know, where something hits so close to home for, you know, him and Tyler and some of the other American players all, you know, playing overseas, but being able to, you know, bring awareness to an issue, you know, that's, you know, transpiring globally, you know, is really important. And again, it was just, you know, a horrible event that has happened. And unfortunately, you know, just events. And like you mentioned too, in terms of, you know, racism in other countries and nations. And, you know, certainly, again, don't want to keep, you know, saying it, but it needs to stop. You know, you can see those banners that FIFA have that, you know, stop racism, end racism. And, you know, it's just, again, nice to see that, you know, Weston was able to, you know, make a statement and have that goal and be able to, you know, show that across, you know, social media.
Yeah, and he you know, he kind of led the charge. He was, you know, the first player to do it this weekend, and you know, I think other players would have done it no matter what, but it definitely, you know, is something that you know, is bringing more awareness to it for sure. I think you know, a lot of people have eyes on the Bundesliga, especially right now, since it's, you know, the only major league back. So I think
Right.
yeah, it was really cool you know, event that happened this weekend, a cool thing to see. So with that being said, now we'll move on to another American who you know, had a kind of an up and down week, Pat, so to speak. So who would that be?
Right, Austin. And that is none other than Tyler Adams over with RB Leipzig. So yeah, again, just kind of going by the game, the farthest game back here midweek against Berlin, which was a draw for Leipzig, 2-2. Tyler started and played 90 minutes at that right back position where, you know, unfortunately we've kind of become accustomed to seeing him there. Nagelsmann, excuse me, has put him there. But again, had a really high passing accuracy with 93%, I believe, and, you know, 5 out of 5 tackles won, which is phenomenal. You could really see his versatility during the game, even though Leipzig still seems to be not where they were for that first part of the season. Again, don't want to make excuses with COVID and the disruption, excuse me. But yeah, it just kind of seems like they've slipped a little bit, and they're trying to, you know, work things out and make sure they're playing, you know, fluidly and not turning the ball over, things like that. But again, nice to see him, you know, get the full start there. And again, the most recent game against Colin there in a 4-2 win for Leipzig. Tyler actually came off the bench. I think it was in the you know, the late 58th minute, and actually slotted into a midfield position. So it was really great to see him more shifted. You could see, I think, on they had like a heat map there and a tracker where he was more on the left side, but also just, you know, bouncing around the midfield. Had 29 touches there. Again, high percentage of pass accuracy, Austin. But again, kind of came in at a point where, you know, they were up 4-2, and just to kind of calm the game down. And, you know, he's a very solid player that's good under pressure, and, you know, didn't have any shots or any key passes. You could say, you know, judge those stats how you will, but it's very nice to kind of see him just slow the game down and be able to come in and, you know, maintain that win for Leipzig. So I want to get your thoughts, Austin. I know he didn't start as a midfielder, but the game before as the right back, he starts 90. Just, I guess, want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't see that midweek game, but I did see, you know, his whole performance, you know, over the weekend, or I guess on Monday when he played. And yeah, it was good to see him back in midfield. Again, I can't harp on it enough. It's kind of like Weston, like that's where he needs to be played. So seeing him get, you know, a good amount of minutes. You said he came in the 58th minute, right, on Monday?
Yeah, in that mid second half, yeah.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, like, it was a good amount of time to be in the midfield, and this was a game that when he came in, I don't know if it was 4-2 at the moment, but like, it was a game that was very back and forth. So yeah, I think it was good to see him do that. I thought he played well in this game. I think he can do it. I think, you know, Julian Nagelsmann will come to realize that's, you know, me putting faith in Tyler Adams, but I do think, you know, over the other players that Leipzig have at that midfield position, like Konrad Lehmer, have Marcel Sabitzer, who's been played further back, Emil Forsberg, Kevin Campbell even as well. I think Tyler brings the most defensive presence out of all of them. And I think that's going to be something that, Leipzig will value here. They are struggling, it seems like. They did get that one on Monday, but they only were able to get a draw against Hertha midweek. And, they've fallen off the pace a little bit this season. So I think, we'll see what happens. But I think if they kind of change things up going into next season, I think there's potential for Tyler to kind of slot in and be that starting, one of the starting center mids, if not the starting center defensive mid. So I don't know, maybe that's just me wishfully thinking, but
yeah. And I think really you have I like the wishful thinking, and that's what I want to do along with, I'm sure, most of the U.S. Fan base here. And just Tyler Adams is, it's an interesting spot where he's in, Austin. It's great to see him playing at such a high level at Leipzig. And
he's got a lot of competition, too.
A lot of competition. That's right. Yeah. And again, I think that's, healthy, especially with a team at such high level and high quality like Leipzig has risen. And we've kind of, I wouldn't say documented the whole thing, but over the years with just kind of, briefly talking about them. And once Adams, came through and to see their rise as a club. So there's no small feat there. But again, like you said, Austin, just being able to, I think the next thing here is, put in these good performances when he can in the midfield and just make sure he's consistently playing and around and making that impact in that specific slot, in that 6 kind of role there. But like you said, next season, I think is really key where, whether some players move around, things like that, where he can really cement himself, as a strong midfielder.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I don't think there's anything else to really say. Yeah.
Right.
I think, with that, we're going to move on to another player from Germany, and that's Josh Sargent. So Josh played 74 minutes midweek against Borussia Mönchengladbach, and that was in a 0-0 draw. So in this game, Pat, it's been kind of the MO of Josh, unfortunately, this year, and it was pretty pedestrian game from him. Unfortunately, he was only able to get off one shot. Didn't really do too much to, I guess progress the game. It was kind of him on an island in this game, from my opinion. So I don't want to, there's not too much to talk about for this game, but I think it is fair noting that they did pick up a point in this game. And that's really good for them because they need any point they can get, currently in that second relegation position. So that was good for them. And then over the weekend, they followed that performance up with a 1-0 win. And in this game, Josh started and played 70 minutes. And this was a game from Josh that, in my opinion, again, this was his best game since, before the break. So it wasn't the best in terms of, getting in position to score. I think that was the one thing that really lacked from his game in this game in particular. But he did do a good job, winning fouls. He won 5 fouls in this game, and I thought that was good. He also created 2 chances. So, if you can't score, at least you got to try and set people up. So I thought that was cool. And then he also just had some good defensive moments. There was one in particular where he really dropped back and made a really nice slide tackle on a player, who was coming up the field, and it was kind of from behind and on the side, and it was a really good really good tackle. So I think overall, it was again a game that kind of lacked his that killer instinct in the final third. You could definitely see anytime the ball got in and around the 18, he just seemed to kind of, lose it a little bit. It just seems like he gets lost in those positions. So that's something that, it's been a theme all season for him, and something that, again, I saw in this game, which gave me concern. But I think the other parts of his game, really, lended to him to have a good game in this game, or lended me to say he had a good game. Because he was an impact in this game. He did have an impact. He helped, Bremen pick up the 3 points. And I think he was, I think on the day he helped the team more than just, being out there and being neutral to the team. So, it's hard to rate strikers on some of the dirty work that they're doing, Josh in particular. But yeah, I think he had as good of a game as you could have without scoring and playing for Werder Bremen this season. So
yeah, Austin, and that's again, unfortunately, that Werder Bremen way. That Josh is kind of stuck in. And again, I think it's very important that you bring up one of the key element to strikers is being able to finish in the final third and have that hunger and that not even hunger and desire, but just that striker's instinct and ability to finish. Yeah, the will and all those things culminating to be a great striker. And just it's unfortunate because again, Josh is very raw and talented and just still a very young prospect, and it just seems like he's lost in that unfortunate position where teams not only in the Bundesliga that relegate, just all relegation threatened teams that find themselves in where not the best environment for a young player developing and maybe a little more afraid or timid to try some new things and daring things when confidence isn't very high in the locker room and personally. So again, I just hope Werder picking up this win can kind of overcome, and it'd be great to see them avoid relegation. I don't know if that's wishful thinking or not, but yeah, just again, overall, really would like Josh to, again, like you said, it's great to see him doing the dirty work, and some of those things don't show up on the stat sheet, and it's really great to have those little things in a striker, but the number one thing is putting the ball in the net.
Yeah, and I think that's just been tough to do this season for anyone playing striker at Bremen. So it is what it is. At least, like I said, in this game, he was able to make a positive impact in other areas. So, we'll see what happens. I think, he'll start again this upcoming week. I think it was, a good enough game to earn him, again, another start. So we'll see. Hopefully there's goals in Josh's future here. So now I guess we'll move over to Borussia Dortmund and talk about a player we're very excited about. So Pat, you want to take it away?
That's right. I'll take it away, Austin. So, Gio Reyna for Dortmund. We'll start back in the midweek game against Bayern Munich. An unfortunate 1-0 loss, but he actually, exciting game. But yeah, the 72nd minute he subbed in, Austin, and it was kind of more of a pedestrian. I think we talked about a little bit off camera, but nothing too notable, I guess you could say. Reyna did draw a foul, which is neat to see. Some perhaps news on Alphonso Davies. He's been getting a lot of press with his speed and his just ability, and the road runner. So he's been very impressive. So great to see that. But again, unfortunate that they lost, and they're still in second, Dortmund overall, but back 7 points to date. Bringing me to the next game here, shifting over to the thrashing against Paderborn at the bottom, Austin, 6-1. So again, Reyna came in the last 10 or 15 minutes there, and actually put on a pretty good performance and threaded a quick counterattack. Some people were calling it a hockey assist to Jadon Sancho there, where he took this defender easily one-on-one and slotted it home. So again, it was nice to see him, make an impact in that game. I think he was fouled twice. Also won a corner, almost scored, I believe as well, and then got that assist.
Close.
So yeah, very close. So Austin, I want to get your thoughts on his cameos here.
Yeah, I thought the game against Bayern, kind of like you said, it was it left me kind of desiring more. I think it's good that he's a 17-year-old playing against Bayern. I think that's no small feat. I think that's something that needs to be respected, I guess. But at the same time, now this is I think it's like his 11th or 12th Bundesliga game. So, I'd like to see more from him. And obviously, again, Bayern's a tough team to do stuff against. But, I thought it was left me desiring a little bit more. And then against Paderborn, I think, he did rise to the challenge. I think, like you said, he affected the game. He did have that shot that was, I was going to say this close from going in. Maybe he could have squared it to Mats Hummels for the assist, but I thought it was still a really good shot. I think that's the biggest thing now. That was kind of where we saw Christian Pulisic fade a little bit, was where after that initial push to break into the Dortmund first team, and everyone was really excited about him, and he scored a few goals early on in his Dortmund career, he kind of faded, and his how do I put it nicely? He kind of faded into the background a little bit. And I hate to say that because, we're all big Christian fans here, but
absolutely.
I just think I just think that's something that Gio just really can't do. And I think if there's anything to learn from Christian's steps at Dortmund, it's, you can't get complacent or just get too comfortable. You got to always continue to push yourself. And that's something that, Jadon Sancho did come into Dortmund, in a similar position as Gio, starting his career at Dortmund as a 17, 18-year-old. It took him a little bit of time to, get integrated with the team. But then, as you can see, the last 2 years, he's really taken his game to the next level. So I think part of that's mindset. And I think, Gio just has to be careful of not getting into that, I'm happy to be playing for a big club in the world, and really just, get down to work and say, I'm not happy with this. I want to be the one scoring all the goals for one of the best clubs in the world. So
right.
I don't know. That's my harsh take, maybe my fatherly take on Gio Reyna.
No, and I think that's very, very good take. And again, I guess I would say just reading some things. And again, I don't know Gio personally, but I think Austin, he certainly can rise to the occasion or meet that challenge that you have for him. I think it was Haaland I saw just an interview with him and how he aspires just the steps of Ronaldo, and you can just see some of the on the pitch just kind of commanding and not shying away with his performances and opportunities. So like you said, Austin, we've been covering. He's a really exciting prospect that I think he's hopefully a little bit. I shouldn't say hopefully, that's incorrect, but in terms of Christian Pulisic, but I think he has a different personality. Seems a little more, I guess, vocal, you could say. I don't know if that's the right words, but I think he's a really exciting prospect, Austin. I just can't wait to see him. I obviously, again, don't want to bring it up too much, but the COVID situation, but I think next year is going to be full on Gio watch.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, he'll continue to get opportunities. Now it's just up to him to kind of make the most of those opportunities and prove to people that he is that player that everyone's thinking he is. And I think he can do it. So there's my my 2 cents on him. I think, he's going to do it. So now let's move on to Chris Richards. So Chris Richards started Bayern II's first game back. So now the dry Liga over in the Bundesliga over in Germany, the dry Liga in Germany is finally back. So we're going to get to see Chris Richards play week in and week out now. Maybe some other players like Uliana's, Michael Edwards for Wolfsburg will probably also be playing some games. So maybe we'll take a little more of a deep dive into that. But so Chris Richards started and played 90 minutes in this game. Bayern II ended up winning 2-1, and that was thanks to Chris Richards' big header in the 89th minute, giving them the win. So, it was a good game. I watched a good portion of this game live. It was on YouTube, so I'm not sure if it's still up for replay, but give it a watch. It was against Ingolstadt, and Chris looked great in this game. I think the biggest asset of his game, and maybe there's 2. His first is his passing. It's just so crisp. He's able to hit passes, all over the field, different types of passes, some of the longer passes he plays, and then obviously some of the shorter passes. So that was one thing that really stood out to me. And I think, it's no secret that's a strength of his game, but it really just looked more polished than a lot of the other players on the pitch as a center back. So I thought that was cool. And then the other thing was, the thing that won the game, his heading ability. And I know we were talking a little bit off camera, Pat, but that's something that, again, consistently is something he's providing anytime he's in a team. So, I thought that was good from him. The one area of his game, again, something that we've seen in the past, but I think it's fair to bring up again, is just his speed, I guess, how to put it. He's a little slow to react, after he passes the ball, so to speak.
Right, sometimes flat-footed.
Yeah, he gets caught flat-footed, and it hasn't come to bite him. Like in this game, he didn't really struggle defensively. There was like 1 or 2 times where he was really tested, but it's just like, he makes a great pass, but he's a second late in getting back into like a athletic stance or a position to defend, if a team countered quickly. And I think that's just something to look for if he plays up next year. That's if he plays with Bayern, which would be the pipe dream, which would be great. That's if he gets loaned to a Bundesliga team or a 2 Bundesliga team. I just think that's something he's going to have to refine in his game, is just being quicker to react. So yeah, I just thought I would bring that up and kind of make people, I guess, a little bit more aware of one of his weaknesses. And also, like I said, he has a lot of strengths to his game too. So don't want to be too harsh.
Yeah, absolutely, Austin. And I know, like you said, just the ability he has, and just that athleticism and strength in the air. And we've seen a few other game winners and just goals in general where he scored, with his head. So it's kind of great to see it in that sense. And just again, a young player that's really working through that. And I feel like he'll really find his footing, as he gets higher up in the levels there, in terms of just not being caught in those positions. But also, Austin, I think Chris and the team there, Bayern, are in a very interesting position. I know they can't. I believe you mentioned it too. They can't get promoted, but they're kind of up on the table there.
Yeah, that is true. I got fact checked this weekend. I tweeted something out on my Bunda Americans account, and unfortunately was wrong in my
it happens.
my assumption of the situation. So yeah, unfortunately, Bayern 2 can't get promoted to the 2 Bundesliga. I guess teams in so if like a parent club has a 2 team like a Bayern 2, that club has to be 2 leagues away from the main team. So since Bayern 2 Bundesliga,
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, and it's only from some of my research, it's only Germany. I guess we don't really see any instances of that in England, so maybe there's a rule too like that. But I know we see Barca B get promoted to the Segunda division over in Spain, so there's something there. I guess young Ajax is in the second league there, and then right. as well. So a little bit different in Germany. I mean that it is what it is. I mean. Whatever, but Bayern 2 is sitting in 5th right now in the table. So they wouldn't get promoted if they finish in those top 2 positions. But it would be cool to see Chris Richards win a trophy with Bayern 2, in my opinion. So definitely something to watch there. And the other thing to watch too, I want to bring up, Pat, before we move on, is if you watch the Bayern game this weekend, they won 5-0 against Dusseldorf, I believe. In that game, Lucas Hernandez came off at halftime with an injury. So not sure if it's going to be a long-term injury or just, more of a precaution taking him off. But, if Bayern are without one of their starting center backs, I do think there's potential you see Chris Richards make the bench for Bayern. I'm not sure if he'll play for them. But, I think it's worth mentioning because, Chris had a good game this past weekend, really played the hero for Bayern 2, giving him the win. And Lucas Mai, the other young center back for Bayern at the moment, is out with injury for the next few weeks. So they're a little thin again at center back. So maybe this is Bayern's time, since we're playing all these games close together. Maybe he could provide some cover on the bench. I don't know.
Yeah, let's get Chris on the bench, Austin.
Yeah, I mean Bayern.
Why not? I'd love to see it.
Yeah, and I mean Bayern played. Oliver Batista Meyer, who's a young player this weekend, as well as Michael Croissants, the young French midfielder. So they're starting to give some younger players some minutes. So maybe Chris gets integrated into that.
Exciting to see.
I think we'll see what happens with Chris in the future. We're rooting for you, and I think that's all we have for this part of our episode today. Now let's head over to Quick Kicks.
All right, all you viewers, it's my favorite time of the show. I know it's Austin's as well, and I hope it's yours. It's none other than Quick Kicks.
So you could test Wayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall, and that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out. The opening goal for the United States.
So to start off Quick Kicks, guys, we're going to head over to Spain with Konrad de la Fuente. And again, some additional transfer rumors to spark some interest there. So as well as Hertha Berlin, some Ligue 1 teams. Monaco and Nice are interested, as well in acquiring Konrad de la Fuente on loan. And this is according to some reports from Mundo Deportivo, but also in terms of Barca B, if they do make it to the Segunda division and they get promoted, there's rumors that Konrad would stay. So very interesting situation, Austin. I know my preference, I think, is, and we can get into it a little more, Monaco, although they didn't have the best season, I think they finished 7th or 8th. It's a very hard team to break into with some very quality players, as well as Nice too. But I would like to see him at Barca B and want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, it was a really interesting rumor. It's two teams we really haven't heard mentioned with Konrad before. The team we keep hearing is Hertha Berlin, but it seems like that rumor's cooled off a bit. So, yeah, I mean, Monaco's, a very talented team. Let me put it that way. I believe, I think you just said it. They're 9th in Ligue 1 right now. So, yeah, they're a really talented team, but not performing well at the moment. And then Nice are another team, I think, finished the season in 6th before it got cut short. So, yeah, a lot of if he goes to either of those teams, a lot of competition. So, yeah, that does give me a little bit of concern, Pat, especially since he's so young still. And, I think he needs to be playing games. So, if he can, get into the first team at either of those teams, that would be, in my opinion, definitely better than Bayern or Barcelona B. But yeah, it might be best for him to stay at Barcelona B though, if they get promoted, because playing in the Segunda division is going to be good experience for him as well. I think he'll be playing with some really good prospects, and I think just staying in that Bayern academy is going to learn a lot, especially if he trains with the first team every so often. I think that'll be similar to the environment he'd get at a Nice or a Monaco. So
right, yes, staying at La Masia again. Just want to quickly mention too, harping on the same points. So La Masia, I think, is the best stay for him. And again, I would be a little fearful for him to, like you said, the competition, to go on loan and kind of get lost and disappear. And we don't want a situation, especially for a player that, again, great ability, those darting runs, be able to take players one-on-one, but kind of is predictable, I think, has been some of the issues, and just being able to become more innovative and creative and kind of a step ahead that some attackers need to be, and have that instinct can certainly develop at La Masia, I think, better.
Yeah, and I'll give you one quick example before we move on. So a player that was at Barcelona who moved to Monaco is Jordi Mbula.
Yeah.
So he's a winger a few years ago. I think he was about the same age as Konrad. I think he moved when he was 18 or 19. Went to Monaco. Was supposed to be the next greatest, winger. And is ending up went to Cercle Bruges in Belgium for a loan, and then just recently got loaned to Huesca over in, I believe, the second tier in La Liga. So
I think you're right. Yeah, they're down there.
So great for him. So if that's any warning signs, maybe it's best for Konrad just to stay put, because he may end up right back in the Segunda division.
Right. Yeah. You don't want that, Austin.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, I guess. But moving on, we do want to give a special shout out here in Quick Kicks. I know Quick Kicks recently has been going a little bit longer, but this one will go quick. So our special shout out goes to Jesse Marsch of Red Bull Salzburg. So congrats, Coach Jesse Marsch. He's not a under 25 player, unfortunately, but definitely a coach we love here at YA. And we're bringing him up because he won the Austrian Cup this weekend, 5-0 over a team I'm not even going to try to pronounce. So congrats, Jesse, and hopefully we see you for the USMNT one day.
That's right, Austin. It's a great accomplishment, and proud to see him doing so well, managing over in Europe and abroad. And also we want to talk about some the Ho Bros that we've all come to know and love, Austin. Emmanual, Sabbi, and Christian Cappis. So great to see them get the full starts and play the full 90 and a 1-0 win against Randers. So again, it's been a long time coming. Unfortunately, you don't want to harp too much on it, but they've had a lot of draws, and it's their first win in 2020. Obviously, with COVID going on, Austin, put a halt to the season. But again, nice to see them get back on the winning board here. And again, highlight some Sabbi really quickly. He had 72% passing, 1 out of 3 long balls, and again had 9 of 25 duels won. So kind of mixed bag performance, but great to just see him on the pitch, get the full 90. And again, he's one of the leaders in goals on the team. So hopefully they can push through, Hobro. And again, Christian Cappis too, had a pretty solid game with over 80% passing. And again, one of those players that get stuck in the the midfield there and being able to have some of those interceptions and clearances. So again, keeping them afloat there, and hopefully they can get above that position in that very, I guess, tumultuous time of the relegation playoffs.
And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
And don't forget, all you viewers, to check out our awesome social media pages, Twitter and Instagram. We're always doing a great job to provide you that quality content now that soccer is really resuming, Austin, and picking back up. So, even in the month of June here, I will have more content.
That's right. Yeah, we gotta get back on the grind now that things are kicking back up. So it's good that we have content to finally get back out. So yeah, look for that. And yeah, what do you say, Pat? I think right now it's tough with the whole COVID thing going on. We had kind of a tumultuous weekend here in America. So there's brighter days ahead. What do you think it's leading up to, Pat?
That's right, Austin. There are brighter days ahead. And again, I think one day when America and the U.S. wins the World Cup, it'll bring everyone together. It'll be a great accomplishment for our country. So you heard it here from me. And
okay.
yeah, and I'll take it from here, Austin. One day we will win the World Cup.